Hi, people. Welcome back to this space. Once again, my name is Oluwakwamle, and today I am here with my loving husband because the last one that we did, you guys loved it. So I brought him back again, and we're going to be talking about something very, very interesting. This one is funny and it's kind of interesting, and the answer to it is kind of tricky, but let's see what my husband has to say about the matter, and then I'll add my own to say to it as well. Make sure you watch it the end. This is very, very interesting. So I'm reading from my phone. It's a kind of a story, and we want to share our own point of view about it. I think we should be doing this often. What do you think, babe?
Yeah, I think it's not a bad idea.
Yeah. So, a true life story. Branch pastor leads single sister to Christ. Babe, now, let me finish
Go
first.
on, go on. Go on.
Branch pastor leads single sister to Christ. Branch pastor disciples single sister. Meanwhile, lead pastor was single and searching, guys. Lead pastor is the one single and searching. Branch pastor led sister to Christ. Branch pastor recommended single sister to lead pastor for the single and searching position. If you get, you get. Lead pastor marries branch pastor's disciple, the sister that branch pastor led to Christ. Branch pastor's disciple becomes mama.
My God.
My God. Mama begins to call branch pastor son. Branch pastor is offended and cautions his disciple, which is his lead pastor's wife. Lead pastor demotes branch pastor.
You
Now,
demoted a bad person.
yes.
My God. Down you go.
So, is this charismatic or an honor work? Because I don't know. I don't know.
Is this charismatic rascality, my God, or honor work? This is a true story. Okay.
So, I hope you guys understood the storyline, and I will just take it again. So, branch pastor converted a lady, and then branch pastor disciples the lady. Then the lead pastor of the same church is single and searching. Uncle needs soulmate, a helpmate,
Yeah, it
a
needs
life
a
partner. Kò easy branch pastor to be the lead pastor without assistance. Lára kan ṣá, in one word, branch pastor recommended his disciple to lead pastor. So technically speaking, lead pastor is probably a spiritual father. Let's see, baby. It's probably a spiritual father. And now that his disciple has gotten married to lead pastor, she is now a spiritual mother, if I may say so myself. And then the lead pastor's wife, which is, yes, the lead pastor's wife, now calls the branch pastor her son. And then the branch pastor is offended and caution the lead pastor wife, his mama. I don't know if you guys get it. So now I'm going to be asking my husband what he thinks about this situation, this whole dramatic situation, because it's a lot to take in. So I'm going to be asking him, I'm going to be passing the mic to my husband to do justice and give us his own opinion on this matter.
Hmm. Quite an interesting story, really. To be frank, it's quite an interesting story. And I think what would really help us give the right judgment in this regard is to have a level of understanding. So, our viewers, please, some of you might not necessarily like what I would say, but there is something I believe in, and that is submitting to the wisdom of God. I mean, if we are believers, we must learn to live our lives by the wisdom of God. That is how we really can be true Christians. So let me start like this. I believe we must understand the difference between spiritual growth, spiritual understanding, or spiritual maturity, and the position or the being called to an office. There are certain things that happens to you when you are called, into an office. When you are called into an office, a number of things changes about you. Status, irrespective of your present spiritual growth or spiritual understanding. And I think this is the perspective I would, take this through. I would answer, put my opinion around. So if you look at scriptures, actually the situation is actually quite dicey and quite interesting.
What
We've actually really laughed about it. We've actually very like had a good laugh about it.
Oh
It's the
my
demotion
God.
for me. Is this disciple calling him son for me. But then on a serious note, is she right? So I'm going to major a lot around the guy based on some of the things we've seen in scriptures. Put this in mind, the foundational things I discussed: spiritual growth, spiritual maturity, and holding a holding an office, being in a position that automatically elevates you. So from the perspective of the guy, I think the man wasn't well positioned to see the woman in a different light now that she's the wife of his lead pastor. Yes, she could be his spiritual disciple. He could have been instrumental in raising her up, in the ways of God. But people don't remain where they are. And we must identify when people have shifted and when they've moved. Sometimes it might not be an encounter, as it were, that actually shifts people. It can be being ordained to an office. When people are ordained to an office, you don't see them the way they used to be. I have friends, for example, one of my friend becomes the governor, and I would now, you know, I would then continue to speak to him as if he's still my friend
In public.
in public while demeaning, his position in public. It's not wise. And in that sense, I must understand that my friend, or even is my friend, he is now the governor. Or let me even bring it on. My wife. My wife becomes the lead pastor. She's my wife. In church, I will submit to her authority. At home, she will submit to my authority. But she's my wife. I might even be more prayerful than she is. Yes, baby.
Sorry, sir. That example.
Mm.
Olofa.
Olofa, but it's
No. You said lead pastor, your wife. Is it me? I be
you now.
okay.
Do I have another wife? I don't
No, you said
understand.
you have another
Okay,
wife.
you wanted to clarify.
No, you can carry
They
on, sir.
play my fans. So, but in this regard, in that regard, I have to give unto Caesar what belongs unto Caesar. So let's just run through a few examples that we see in scriptures. Paul and Barnabas. I'm going to talk about Paul and Barnabas. I'm going to talk about Esther and Mordecai. I'm going to talk about probably Joseph and his father Jacob. So if we have the time, because I want to answer as briefly as possible. What do we say about Paul? Barnabas had gotten born again way before Paul came into Christ. In fact, if we can put a timeline, we're talking about 8 to 10 years. If we can put a timeline. Um, Paul started ministering the gospel, right? And then when he wanted to join himself with the disciples, they did not allow all of them. Hey, one year, they ran away. This guy, we know him. It was Barnabas that put his reputation in line, took Paul, introduced him to the disciples. And even Barnabas, we know that he was very instrumental, in the growth and development of Paul, especially his ministerial work in the church. Because if you don't have access, how do we know how much of God you understand and how much of God you can actually serve to people that will make them grow spiritually? It was through the influence of Barnabas that this happened. This same Paul and Barnabas in Acts chapter 13, the Bible says, as they fasted and ministered unto God, the Holy Spirit spoke, separate unto me Barnabas and Paul for the work. In that regard, for the fact that the Holy Spirit commissioned them, but Bible says they were commissioned by God. They had become ministerial partners and no longer father and son. Paul, in that regard, was not was no longer in any way inferior to Barnabas. As at that point, even Barnabas might still have more spiritual understanding and spiritual growth, but in the place of position, office, they've become equals because the ministry has been divided equally to them. So in that regard, Paul cannot keep referring to Barnabas as my spiritual father. Yes, there can be respect, there can be honor, but in the way things are right now, that can be the case. There is no inferiority and superiority in this matter again. And in the same way, Barnabas cannot keep referring to Paul. No, be me bring you. Was it not me that gave you access? No, that is bygone because now the assignment has been given to you both, and you are now recognized as equal partners in ministry. That's number one example. So I believe the man in this regard is supposed to also see that.
Okay, so let me ask a question before you move to the second point. In the case of Paul and Barnabas, after they had been ordained,
Yeah.
do you think that Barnabas still should still be able to correct Paul in public?
In public, uh it's a very dicey conversation because we see what Paul did in Galatians chapter 2, where he said that he withstood Peter to the face for the sake of the brethren, not because he wanted to dishonor or disrespect Peter, but for the sake of the gospel to thrive. He needed to correct an anomaly that he witnessed even in Peter, because like they used to say, a leader's sin is a leading sin. A leader's transgression could be a leading transgression. When a leader makes a mistake, when it is not sometimes publicly addressed, many followers can see it as a norm, and then they take it and run way further than what is intended.
But what if the correction is done in public and then the leader in question or that is being corrected own up to maybe his mistakes in public? I mean, it's been corrected in private and then he own up to his mistakes in public. Does that still work?
Yes.
Instead of publicly going, Apostle Paul was a hard man.
I actually was.
So,
Actually,
I believe that Apostle Paul was a very hard man because.
And you also believe that if it was late in the later years of his ministry, he might not have done that. He wouldn't have confronted Peter like that.
Yes. Imagine Apostle Paul. Oh, foolish Galatians. What's the Yoruba again?
No, that's not it.
No, that's not
it.
Yes. At times when you hear some things in English, you might not, but when you hear it in Yoruba, you will know that, sir, sir, man of God. So, I think you can carry on with your second point. I think I have my question clarified already.
Yeah. So to clarify that again, I believe it could have been done in private, while the person corrected would have owned up to it in public to correct the actions. So that's the place of honor and spiritual maturity as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Makes sense. Now to my second example, and that's the case of Esther and Mordecai. We know the story, or many of us would know the story. Beauty pageant, we're looking for the queen, the next queen. Mordecai positioned Esther rightly until Esther was able to get into the position of being the queen. Now, Esther is like a daughter to Mordecai. Mordecai practically raised her up. In fact, we can say Mordecai practically mentored her, positioned her to become whosoever it is she became. So we can say that even not for Mordecai, Esther might not have become queen. But then Esther is now queen. Is she still that daughter that you recognize? Yes, she's still the daughter, but she now holds an office that can lead to your death if you do not have sense. That's the place. People can be people, but people don't remain the same. And many times we must recognize when people have shifted. If Mordecai, one day Mordecai comes into the throne room or into the king's palace and he talks anyhow to Esther, they can cut his head off, even though he is the father and is responsible for all the growth and whatever that happened
Half
to
with his
Esther.
half with his head.
Exactly, off it his head. Cut off his head down. He will get to heaven, the angels will knock his head. Say, you're a very foolish boy. Why are you here? Exactly. So that in itself must be well recognized. In fact, see the position of Esther and Ahasuerus the king. Esther could have said, he is my husband. But he still followed protocol. She still followed protocol. And there was even something she did. She went into the judgment hall knowing that this was not according to the usual protocol of seeing the king on his judgment seat. So it was by mercy. So even she knew that, oh, this is mercy. But she could have said, I can walk in anytime. This is my husband. We must recognize offices and we must recognize people. One of the things that my prophet used to say is that you must know how to compartmentalize as a leader. Because you brought up someone in the way of the Lord and the person has been made your GO, does not mean you should keep referring to that person as your spiritual daughter or your son. Or that you should be offended when the person, tells you to go do something or tells you something or says something. You cannot be publicly offended. If you're offended, keep it in your heart and pray to God. Yeah, because that's the place of spiritual maturity as well. So that's my second example. I really hope that, that nailed it. Now going to the third example, which is the case of Joseph and Jacob. We know the story. Joseph is the 11th son of Jacob,
Yeah.
and we know the story, the dream he had and told his father. His father said, "Will me and your mother will now also bow down to you." Yes, you will bow. Because this is destiny we are talking about. This is the place of elevation and position we are talking
Sorry to
about.
say, Egwan Joseph now bed here.
And we know, wisdom, man.
So
It will lag the that time. There are things you keep to yourself until that
yes.
time when you're
So are
supposed
we
to
now
reveal.
saying that in this kind of relationship, wisdom
Yeah.
is one of the prominent things?
Yes, wisdom. Wisdom, in fact, I was actually still coming there. Wisdom to manage relationship is key. And it happens between wife and husband and wife, friends, a spiritual daughter and spiritual fathers. Yeah.
Or even leaders and maybe your head usher and you're in usher.
Yes.
You might have been in the ushering department before the person that is made your head usher.
Yes.
But what do you want to do about it?
This person
is now
just
the head
came 6
usher.
months ago and is made the head usher. And as a matter of fact, when it comes to service by experience in God's house, you are way more, you are Agba usher. You are spiritually more matured, you have more spiritual understanding. But he's your head usher, you submit and bow.
Yeah.
That's the demand that the wisdom of God communicates to us believers. It's the place of honor, in God's kingdom. So in the case of Joseph and Jacob, imagine Jacob getting to Egypt and not, Joseph sitting on his throne and Jacob not bowing. They can cut off his head, sincerely, with the blessing on his head. It's a place of wisdom.
Oh my God.
So what Joseph dreamt about, did it not happen? So imagine Jacob now coming and say, no, this is my 11th son. Who are you? Who is he? He's the prime minister of Egypt, the world power, the strongest country on earth at that time. You will die.
You will die.
You will collect. So, that's just the place of wisdom. Wisdom in the part of the two individuals. You must recognize what? Now, let me say this finally. I believe also, so are we saying that what the lady did is right? I would say what she did is not wrong, even though I believe it could have been properly done.
Yeah, I wish I could talk about the lady's part though. I feel like wisdom is very important.
Still key.
I feel like there is a position she might be that she has to refer to him as her son. We don't know when he called or when she called him her son. We don't have that information. But imagine she's on the podium and then she's trying to refer to the branch pastor, maybe something he did,
Pastor Lokman,
and she's
my spiritual son.
and she's like, oh, this my spiritual son right here. In that office, she in that position, she could have called him that way. But she could have also said, our spiritual son here,
Yeah.
referring to she and
Now
lead
husband.
pastors.
Yeah.
Not, but even saying mine, I really do not see the issue in that at that position. But not that maybe service has ended, you guys are having a conversation maybe about something, and say, my son, you should have done things that ma, wisdom now,
Yeah,
wisdom ma.
wisdom.
So I feel like we don't know the way it was when she called him a son, but technically speaking, baby, is she not her son? Is he not her son?
Yeah, he is technically. I'm a son to my prophet's wife, even if she's not a pastor. But now she's even now my pastor. What will I now do?
Exactly.
Double honor.
Exactly.
Now, it's also evident that the man took so much offense.
Yes.
Going to go and meet her
Caution.
publicly to caution her. Bro, why are you? Who are you?
We've not spoken about one part.
What's that?
The lead pastor, was he right demoting the branch pastor?
For me, I think it's the appropriate how should I put it? It's the appropriate response to the issue. Sometimes we learn humility by force. Because like I said, the basics are spiritual wisdom, spiritual understanding, spiritual growth, and the place of position. So there are things that spiritual maturity would help you take. Naturally speaking, yes, logically speaking or naturally speaking, it's not an easy thing to see the person you mentored to call you our own spiritual son. I mean, the person you disciple, not just that you disciple, that you were the one that
I brought her to Christ.
not just brought her to Christ now. The position she is now, being the pastor's wife.
You recommended her.
Recommended her.
It takes strength.
Exactly. It takes spiritual maturity to be able to look away from the impact on your flesh and embrace the knowledge of the spirit that you have, or the wisdom of the spirit, and then you look away.
It's not easy. Even the slightest example of somebody you were in the ushering department before becoming the head usher and maybe going ahead to even become a pastor. Why you are still usher? You have not even gone to head usher.
Yeah.
It takes strength to maintain order,
to submit, to be humble.
Yes, you have to be humble.
Yeah.
I think there's one of our core values in CDM that covers that.
Yeah.
But even as
accountability,
even as a leader,
yeah,
then you should know how to talk to
the people following you, your followers.
Yeah,
you must know.
Should express grace in your words.
Understanding that they are not just your followers, they are also kings and priests to God.
Yes.
So you must be gracious in the way you address them, irrespective of what they might have done wrong. We are all growing and we are susceptible to mistakes. And in that regard, while correcting the people that are following you or the people you are privileged to lead, you must be very gracious.
Yeah. Leadership is a privilege.
Yeah, it's a privilege.
And you are showing the way. You're expecting them to follow your way. If you cannot be gracious with your word, then something is fundamentally wrong from up there.
Yeah.
There are some people, and I can say I'm part of those people, that they take their respect very seriously. I don't take...
As a typical Yoruba one.
As a typical Yoruba firstborn that I am.
We are first the son of God.
Yes. But there are some things that I don't like it. I don't take and maybe because I even went to a secondary school where seniority was like...
It was a big deal.
Was a big deal.
Background boarding house. Federal government boarding house.
So you went to that kind of school, you know that this thing is a no-no. Having to submit or bring down that place that you think you have kept yourself. And guys, age is just a number. Imagine
We should talk about that too
another later.
yes, we
I
should.
think we will just touch on that later. But what I'm trying to say is, in whatever you do, either as the leader or as the subject or what's
As a
the as
follower.
the follower, you should always ensure that your words are seasoned with
Yeah.
grace. Is even the Bible said so. It's very important. And if you think you're in a position where you are finding it difficult, maybe you should just take it to God in prayer that God help me.
Yeah.
That's why if it's difficult for you to submit to your husband, it takes word of God to help you to be that woman that can, because there are some people that where they place themselves is so high that it is difficult for them to bring themselves to the point of submission. And submission is not being, I don't know how to explain this, but I'm going to touch on that in another video as well. I have that at the back of my mind. For me, babe, I believe that maybe the lead pastor went very far. I believe that if it was just once, you could have maybe, corrected him in public as well, or corrected him in private, instead of just going ahead to demote him. I'm trying to say if it was once, then he could have done that. But maybe it's something that have reoccurred, then he has the right to demote.
Do you know why, as from perspective of a man, I believe it's a just thing, as it were?
It's a husband.
Exactly. Number one is our
It's a
husband. You
husband.
spoke to my wife anyhow.
Yeah. So
You spoke to my wife anyhow, apart from the fact that she's not your pastor. The fact that you first spoke to my wife anyhow, number one, transgression is iniquity. Oh. Number two, she's your pastor. And then you still spoke to her anyhow. You collect.
guys, that's what we think about this story. You can let us know what you think in the comment section, but based on the biblical points and some of what we think as well from the Bible stand, I think that's what we have to say about the whole dramatic situation. And I believe that you have been able to learn one or two,
Yeah.
and you have enjoyed this video.
Yeah.
So my baby, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, my final words, life scenarios. By God's grace, I've been following, my pastors and my pastors, my spiritual father and parents for a while now. Spiritual wise, spiritually speaking, in spiritual knowledge, understanding, and maturity, they are way ahead of me. Do you get? But there's something I've noticed, even while following and while working with them, there's times when I've done things wrong, in the wrong way. Things have gone wrong that probably little communication would have. But while they are addressing it, they don't speak condescendingly. They do, their words are gracious. They correct with grace. They correct constructively. Where, okay, if this kind of thing, if you find yourself in this kind of situation next time, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. Those are people that are even way ahead of me. Do you get? So I am not liking this, whatever, with what we've said, but with the place of leaders speaking graciously, to people following you, knowing that you have been given the privilege to lead them, but not just to lead them, to help them grow. To help them grow. So you see, that place of being humble as a leader is also there, because that is what will put you in check to not speak ill or speak anyhow, even to the people you lead. Thank you. Thank you. I enjoyed positing my opinion. Thank you.
So this is going to be the end of the video. I hope you've been able to learn one or two. And like I said, please drop your own 2 cents about this story in the comment section. Have you ever been in something like this? Have you gone through something like this? Or if there's anything you want us to discuss or share our own point about, you can also drop it in the comment section.
Please drop
So
it.
we would like to, give our own opinion, and our opinion is biblical opinion, or the way we see things from the from the line of scriptures. So do not forget to comment and like this video. More of this is going to be coming, and I hope you enjoyed the video as much as we enjoyed taking it. So bye.